Is Oannes related to the Dagon?
The Dagon was a Palestinian deity and is very much aligned to the Babylonian deity Oannes, who was described as a rapist. We see the same tradition also. The rapist is connected etymologically to the reaper, and this analogy is found within the etymology of Dagon. Dagon is the Greek word for corn. The correct rendition, though, of Dagon is coming from the Hebrew word dag, meaning a fish, hence the Dagon were represented as fish-like in appearance. Dagon is probably from dag anu, which means fish and heaven. Anu is also the principal deity of the Middle East, Anu, who was represented as a jackal. The jackal is an esoteric signifier of the dog star, so immediately we're seeing that there is a connection between the dog star and the symbol of the fish, which is identified with the rapist, and the reaper and the reptile. All these etymologies are found within the Semitic and within the Latin. In addition, we can see in the Akkadian language, the Akkadian word for a serpent is Pierre. This is rendered in the Hebrew as Pira Adam, which means savage, and in the Persian we've got the word Peri, which were the race of serpents. Now the word Peri in the Indo-European etymologies, we can, in morphology, we can transfer the f sound with a p. So the word Peri, which is a serpent being, is rendered in the English as a fairy. Now, the original etymology of PR is closely grouped and indeed may have originated from the Chinese word pa, which is a snake or a demon. So we can see how these words are transferred throughout the various different languages. In the Chinese we have a pa, which is a snake or a demon. In the Akkadian language we have PR, which is a serpent. This is rendered in the Persian as the Peri, who are the snake beings, and in the English we get the etymology fairy.
You mentioned in The Murder of Reality that Oannes is another name for Osiris. Could you elaborate?
Okay, well, there's a close relationship between the deity Osiris and Oannes. Oannes, as we said earlier, is a rapist. Now, the etymology of Oannes is grouped with N, which in Akkadian means Lord, but within the Egyptian Arabic refers to an eye. Okay, so the symbol of the eye is a symbol of the dragon. As we noted before, the word drakon comes from the word drakos, which is an eye. In the Arabic, the eyelid af is connected to afa, which is a serpent. So the eye glyph, which is used to write the name of Osiris, specifically relates to the dragon, which is connected to the deity Oannes, who is deemed as a rapist, and is connected to the star system Sirius. So, hieroglyphically, the glyph N, which is used literally to write the word I, in the Egyptian Arabic N meaning I, in the Akkadian means a lord. We find the same pun within English. We find the word sir is related to the word sea. Sea, a symbol of the eye, is identified with Osiris, or the line of the dragon. So, in addition, with Osiris's hieroglyphs, we have the throne glyph. Now the throne glyph, and this is what I've argued within my book, is Asas. Asas means a foundation, so En Asas is Lord of the Foundation. An Asas is a pun on Anasis, Oannes, which is the Babylonian fish deity. So we see that there is an analogy within the wordplay between Osiris, whose progeny is identified with the dragon, who originates from the rapist Oannes, or Oannes, who is the Babylonian deity. Egyptologists give various renditions for the name of Osiris. One rendition they give is Wusser. Wusser is coming from the word wasi, which is a sentinel. It's worth noting also that Asas foundation is a variation on Asel, which is the word origin. So Osiris is the creator god. He's one of the original gods, and he is Lord of the Foundation. The foundation here originally connoted the 6 foundations, which were the 6 days of creation. The 7th day was the Sabbath, which remained hidden and was associated with death, because God is resting on the 7th day, and the inaction of God is assumed to be linked to malevolence. So we see a relationship here between the Sabbath and the etymology of Saturn. Within the Hebrew language, Shabtai is the word for Saturn, and is connected to the European etymologies of satiation, which are variations on the idea of the meal or the sacred meal associated with the Sabbath.
The fish is another big symbol of the dragon paired with the matriarch. Could you explain?
Yeah, in the Arabic, the word Nissa, woman, is paired with Nasi, which is a fish. This originally is identified with the Nazai priesthood, who identified themselves with the fish, or the symbol of the fish. So the Nazarenes later on, who were referred to as the early Christians, would use the fish sign. The fish is an extension of the dragon symbol. But this idea is also found within other languages as well. So for example, within the Latin language, we have Nata, which is a daughter, and she is connected to Natans, which is a fish. Likewise, also within Latin, we find a similar analogy. Also, we find the word matrix, which refers to the womb, paired or punned with natrix, which is a water snake. The water snake is a symbol of the menstrual fish, the eel, sometimes depicted in esoteric circles as the rouge serpent, and is very much linked to the fire star, which is the menstrual blood. In addition, in the English, the same wordplay is found in the word womb and worm. We find in the Hebrew as well the word rechem, which is a womb, is punned with ruach, which is a demon. So this is the bloodline, or a fallen angelic bloodline, connected both to the symbol of the fish, which personifies the dragon, and is linked or identified with the matriarchal bloodline. This is why within Judaism in particular, the bloodline of the angel is matriarchal, and the bloodline of the Jewish nation is conveyed through the female. Evidence suggests that it was women who were initiated into the highest levels of initiation, and men were effectively excluded from this initiation, and that the dragon or the reptile controlled the breeding female.
So the fish is used as a dual signifier of the dragon and priestess. Can you show us how this feeds into the cult of Isis?
To do this, I think we need to go back into the hieroglyphs. The fish sign or symbol which the early Christians used is very similar to the hieroglyph of the mouth, which is an elongated lozenge shape, which is very narrow lozenge shape. Now when this was placed vertically, the mouth then becomes the vagina glyph, and this is again very closely connected to the eye, which is a symbol of the matriarch. So we see 3 important signifiers connected to the matriarch. We see the mouth, which is represented either as an eye or a vagina. The idea is also conveyed within the Greek mystery schools as well. The word for a virgin is kor. Now the Greek word kor is a homonym of the word pupil. Now the pupil is a dual signifier used to describe Osiris, or the bloodline of Osiris, which we mentioned earlier is identified with the dragon, or Drakos, and eye, or the bloodline of the proto-kings of Egypt. Now the monarchical line of Egypt is connected to the cobra, which was represented as a Theban, or the Anguagina, the offspring of the serpent. The offspring of the serpent again can be replicated with the eye symbol. So these symbols all interfeed into one another, and the priestess and the bloodline of the priestess, she conveys the monarchical bloodline, and this is preserved through the progeny of the woman. So the priestess is connected at an esoteric level to the materialization of an angel or a dragon, or to the birth or the Immaculate Conception. This both refers to the physical birth of demigods, but also to the materialization of angelic beings typified or typically represented as the dragon. We see the word plays found within the wordplay womb and worm. In the Hebrew word rekem, a womb, is put with ruach, a demon. Again, we find the Arabic word dud, meaning a worm. Sometimes it's translated as a caterpillar, but again the caterpillar is a symbol of the hairy snake, or the hemithioi, or the human angelic bloodline. And this is contrasted with dutta, which is a dowry. So these word plays are connecting all the time. Indeed, the word host, which is the angelic host, again is connected to the offering, which is the host, or the hostus, which is streams of blood. The streams of blood originally connoted menstrual blood, as found in the Greek etymology hustera, which means a womb.
Perhaps you could give me a little more information on Isis before we move on to other goddesses in the Egyptian pantheon?
Okay, we'll look at the hieroglyphs of Isis's name. Isis is written with an egg and a throne. The egg glyph in the Egyptian Arabic, Beid, is an egg and is connected to Beida, which means white. Obviously this is a reference to the white crown of Egypt. So we've got Beid or Beida, which is white, with the word Asas, which is the foundation represented by the throne, which is connected to Aso, which means origin. So Beidasas, which is Isis's correct name, literally means the white foundation, which is the white crown of Egypt. We see also that there's a relationship with the word Beid with Bada, which means a full moon. So Isis is the goddess of the moon. As we mentioned earlier, the descendants of man, the seed of man, was taken to the moon and was stored in the moon, and the moon was a receptacle used to store the offspring of man. So Isis is seen as a daughter of the foundation, or a lady of the foundation. It's useful also here to look at the sun god Ra. Typically Ra's name is written with the circle or the sun glyph, which really refers to the star system Sirius, and is interconnected with the duck. Now Egyptologists translate these two glyphs as the son of Ra. Sa, S-A-H, Sa, meaning sun, and Ra. Now this again is shown to be disingenuous, because there are no Semitic words referring to the word Sa, which means sun. Indeed, if we look at the word Bat in the Egyptian Arabic, Bat is a duck. It is also shared with the Egyptian word Bat, meaning a daughter, in the Hebrew Bath. So the duck is used as a glyph to represent the daughter of the sun, or the daughter of the sun god, who is deemed as Sirius. So in other words, Batra. Batra is connected to the daughter of the foundation, who is referred to as Isis. She is known as Beidasas, or the white foundation. And Beidasas again is connected with the Hebrew word Vahada, which means majesty. So she is deemed as the white goddess, or the goddess of the moon. In the Greek traditions this would be Artemis. Again, the statues of Artemis show the deity with eggs which are contained on a chest. This is a visual pun both of the breast, but is also a direct reference hieroglyphically to the goddess Isis, who is deemed as the goddess of the moon. Just to close the section on Isis, it's worth referring to the idea that the foundation referred to the 6 days of creation, and is identified with the 6 planets. Saturn, the 7th planet, remains hidden, which is connected to the Sabbath. In addition, the foundation really embodies the covenant. So the lady of the foundation really is the lady of the covenant. The covenant is the covenant between man and the angel, which is personified or represented as the dragon, in which the symbol of the eye is a recurrent feature found within the mystery religions and the mystery plays.
As far as I'm aware, you're the only author that argues that the deity Apophis is a fish goddess, an idea which is connected to the menstrual sun. Could you explain?
Yes, the Egyptian scribes represented the sun as the menstrual sun and is connected to the deity Apophis. Egyptologists traditionally argue that the serpent deity Apophis is a serpent god, and this is actually incorrect. If we look at the Egyptian carvings and the Egyptian images of Apophis, you can see quite clearly that this deity has gills. In addition, the eel is important because in the ancient world the eel was considered to be one of the few fish which could menstruate, and we see that the eel is a personification of the human angelic line and is connected to the menstrual blood. So the eel is really an eel goddess and is a menstruating goddess. Hence the blood in the sky is not concerned with the sun being devoured, but is particular to the goddess herself, who is menstruating in the sky. Now we see that this is backed up also within etymologies within the Greek and Hebrew language. So for example, the Greek word hemera, meaning day, is connected to hymen, which is the opening of the vagina, and is connected to Haima, which means blood. In the Hebrew also, Buka is a spot, Boka is morning, and Bokura means a young girl. Bakura is rendered in the Greek mysteries as the Bacchae. The Bacchaes worshipped or celebrated Bacchus. So instantly we can see that the traditions of Apophis are grouped with the breeding female, as we mentioned earlier in the Latin. Natans is a fish and Natan is a daughter, or matrix, and which means the womb, and natrix, which is a water snake. The symbol of the fish is connected to the Nazai priesthood, which originally was a synod or mothers of priests who bore the sons of angels. As I mentioned, in the Hebrew plays we've got Boka, which means morning, Buka, which is a spot, and Bakura, which is a young girl, which is connected in the Greek traditions to the Bacchae. Now the spot of blood is the menstrual sun and is connected to Immaculate Conception. The Latin word maculatus comes from the word meaning a spot. In this context, this is a spot or a stain of blood which is associated with divine birth, usually identified with the Virgin or with the matriarch.
In your book Codex and Riddles, which should be out by the beginning of 2011, you argue that Thoth is a female deity or is linked to the worship of the goddess. Could you explain?
Thoth traditionally is represented either as the abyss bird or also as the baboon. Now, to understand the relationship of the baboon, we have to go back into the Roman mysteries, and there is a connection here with the goddess Semele and Simie, which is the Roman word for an ape. So the ancestors of Semele, the goddess of the moon, is identified with the ape, which is the original ancestor of humanity. As we mentioned earlier, the seed of man was stored on the moon. When we go back into the Egyptian traditions, we see that the baboon is connected to the oracle. We also see that the baboon is used to denote the reaper because it smiles or grimaces, and the grimace is connected to the serpent and the reaper, or the serpent of death. The baboon itself barks like a dog, and so the signifier of the baboon augments or really welcomes the dog star. And looking at the relationship in the Roman mysteries between the etymology of ape and between the goddess of the moon, we see that the baboon or the moon is connected to the oracle and to the worship or the veneration of the moon, and to the menstrual blood, which is identified both with the moon but in addition to the menstrual sun, which we talked about earlier.
How is the Semitic deity Baal connected to the deity Osiris and Oannes?
The relationship with Baal is connected to the sailor, as we mentioned earlier. So for example, Bahar is a sailor connected to the word bar, meaning sea. In addition, in the Arabic, you've got the switch between the L and the R. So Baal, meaning Lord, is punned with the word Bar, meaning a son in the Aramaic. Now, in the Arabic, Bar is used to identify the Auk, or to signify the Auk. So the sun can be represented either as an Auk or can be represented as the sun. Now, the Auk is a symbol of the sun god Horus. Horus' father is Osiris. Importantly, we see on the old Canaanite sculptures of Baal, we see that Baal is wearing the southern crown of Osiris. The crown is drawn as a tear duct, and now the tear duct mythologically retells of the creation of man. So, for example, the tears of Atum Ra created man. This is connected to the southern crown of Egypt, which is the eye. The severed eye is identified with the sun, Bar or Baal, and is identified with the descendants of the dragon. The eye is used to delineate or show the dragon, and is connected to the fish god Oannes. It's useful here also to highlight that often the eye is drawn as the fish or is punned with the fish. So the southern crown of Egypt, which is shown as the tear duct or the gland of the eye, is also sometimes drawn or is punned with the fish's head, and this is seen within modern depictions of the Mitra, in which this actually silhouettes the fish's head, which is a dual signifier of the eye connected to the dragon. To emphasise, the symbol of the crown is extremely complex. So, for example, we talked about that the crown can represent the fish's head, it can represent the eye. In addition, it is a phallic shape, so the phallus, so it also represents the glands of the penis. So the idea of the crying eye is analogous to the penis and to semen. Interestingly, the shape of the penis or the phallus is connected hieroglyphically to the vagina as well. So therefore the eye glyph, when it's placed vertically, represents the vagina. The clitoris would be connected symbolically to the pupil of the eye. In the Greek traditions, core to the virgin or core to the pupil. And indeed, in modern English we use the word pupil to refer to the eye or to a student. In the original context, the student would be an initiant. So, as we've looked at before, the symbol of Osiris's crown references the fish deities, particularly Oannes and Baal. These were deemed as sailors. They were also deemed as rapists, hence the symbol of the phallus, which is often combined with the dragon, in addition to the eye. Additionally, as we said earlier in my interview, we talked about how the eye glyph is connected also to the shape of the fish, and hieroglyphically can be connected to the mouth as well. So we see that rites are associated with the materialization of the dragon, which is identified with the divine birth or divine inception. Symbolically, the divine inception interconnects with the resurrection of the sun and the sunset, which usually is identified with the menstrual blood and the blood clot.